morning, listeners
Good morning.
viewers. Hey, Jalf.
How you doing?
What's going down?
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
You need to speak up a bit.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe I just need to turn up the volume.
My volume's on full.
Is it? Maybe I need to pump up the volume. Can you remember that song?
Yeah, of course. Black something, right?
No, man, that was something else.
Hmm?
That was, you're talking about Ride on Time, which was Black Box.
Yeah. Black
Pump
Box.
Up the Volume was by somebody else.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, let's share my screen. Let's do this. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Good morning, listeners and viewers. You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly radio show.
Each week we bring you views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally, not just corner shops. Whether you look to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. Gosh, Jalf, congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Ammar. We've had an eventful week.
Have you?
In the hospitality calendar.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so obviously there's the annual British Courier Awards, which usually happens every year, but it was missed last year, and they did a virtual one last year, so it was slightly different. But this year they had an event, and it was a very, very big event, and we were kind of nominated in one of the categories. Being a new restaurant, they've got kind of certain awards, but Kai did win the best restaurant concept in the whole of the UK. So it was a finale event. It was a big award, and it was a really nice day out for the team, because they worked so hard over the last 18 months. If you imagine, Ammar, in hospitality, you kind of, I can't remember what day it was, 2000, and I think it was March, wasn't it, when the first lockdown started, and all of a sudden everything just falls off a cliff. And to salvage certain businesses, you need the team to be able to be with you and get you through those difficult moments. And that's the kind of, I always say in business, and when we're looking at individuals and trying to forge a long-term relationship, whether it be with chefs or management team or team members, you need the difficult moments to really learn about them and understand who they are, the character that they have, and are they with you, what their thought process are they selfish, are they unselfish, are their heart is in the best interest of the business. Of course, everyone has got their own interests, but those that understand, if the business works, then the individual position is protected, then they give their heart and soul to the business. So we had a number of individuals over the last 2 years, or nearly 2 years or so, that we knew that they were stalwarts. So it was great to take them down and experience something, and the experience is always a lot tastier when you win. It would have been a great event even if we didn't win, but to go there and win, and it was a finale kind of award, it was a real big deal. And I think obviously because it was a finale kind of award, the big one, the BBC National News got wind of it, and they were onto us. So we've done a fair share of interviews here and there, and yeah, it's just nice to have an element of reward or the industry recognition, I guess, which is probably something that's nice, because we did set out to be quite unique in the first instance, but for the industry to see that and recognize that is probably the most fulfilling thing.
Amazing. Congratulations. Very proud of you. Very proud of Kai. It's in Newcastle, right? As in, it's a northeast found place and space, and it's now globally recognised as being the best, which is amazing. So well done.
Oh, thank you very much, Ammar. So look, ultimately, we just want, as we've always said, Ammar, we're local people. We love our city. Our heart is in the best interest of the city, and we want to kind of, improve the landscape of the city and bring things that can sit perfectly well in Mayfair. Why should they not belong in Newcastle upon Tyne? Because it's a great city with great people, and that's always been at the forefront of our minds. So hopefully, we do know that it is appreciated certainly by the public. Certain groups we don't really know yet. We don't seem to be there supporting us as much as what we would like, but that's what it is. We continue and we get on. The reception doesn't seem to be brilliant.
Does it not?
Is it my phone or is it?
Well, I can see and hear you fine.
Okay, cool.
I'm hoping that everybody can see and hear us as well.
Excellent.
There's, gosh, it's been a particularly interesting week, Jalf, up in and around where we are, in that we had Storm Arwen.
And how did that affect you, Ammar? Personally, did you have gas and electricity or electricity? Because I know some didn't.
Touch wood, fortunately, we were okay when it came to electricity. However, our daughter's nursery didn't have and only got electricity back on Thursday. They had generators, so they had a choice of heat or lighting in the nursery. So it impacted us because we had to drop our daughter off later and pick her up earlier, is what we had to do. But there were thousands of people, Jalf, without any electricity, couldn't do anything. And if you can imagine, if you don't have electricity, your boiler doesn't work, nothing works.
It's awful. I mean, God.
It's horrific.
You can't, I think, should there not have been you now think about things, even in, a country such as Britain, should there not be a fallback when gas and electricity they go out? Because in our, in the subcontinent, the countries that we originate from, you kind of can adapt very fast when the electricity goes, because you have those cutoffs, and because it's so rare here, we're not really ready for it. But I wonder, Ammar, moving forward, with the issues with energy and the cost of it, I'm wondering if all households should really have some kind of a backup plan, and realistically, what could that be though? Because it's so difficult. Because you can't exactly just go and get a generator, because your generator isn't going to be locked into what. So we're not really equipped, are we, for any type of blackouts for a length of time? I mean,
well, they did actually introduce and bring a number of generators. They just ran out of generators as well. So there was big backup generators. There was significant. I mean, we as a country, right, have backup generators that would power us as a country if the power grid, if we ran out of fuel, right? So our power grid is connected with a whole host of generators. People aren't necessarily aware of this, but that is based on the infrastructure and the structure being in place. What happened was the trees knocked out power lines, substations have been failed, they've failed working. So these are big, massive, electricity is generated, it comes into a substation, it's converted, reconverted, and then distributed. If that substation fails, it means then power can't get into the rest of the network. So you're then talking about sub-power stations, these huge places and spaces failing. So you're then having to look to get the equipment, and so this was, that term unprecedented. Equally, we were hit with -2-3 degrees during the last week. The weather's plummeted, so it's been literally the perfect storm. Although there's no such thing as a perfect storm, is it? If it's going to put out so many people. So, your point, Jalf, around would we expect this? Were we prepared for it? Absolutely not. Should we be? Yes, we probably should, because we've suffered from floods, we've suffered from extreme weather. We should be better prepared. And people shouldn't be, in this day and age, without power for 6-7 days, Jalf. Right? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in places like Bangladesh or Pakistan, does it?
Not really. But my point is, Ammar, but the systems, though, our houses are not prepared. Let's say that if there was regulation, when we do the electrical lines for our houses or all the new builds, they should have the facility of having a generator there, or easy to connect to a generator. But you would need the infrastructure and the wiring in place in your house before you even think about getting a generator. There's no point us going buying a generator for this type, because the infrastructure, the wiring is not in place, right?
Yeah. Well, the real why when you say the wiring isn't in place, so the bigger generators were plugged into the network, right? Okay. So they were powering the network.
So you can't.
And those smaller generators that were offered, they just have plugs on the back of them, right? So you can run a power lead into your property and run your fridge and things like that. Now, as it happens, Jalf, you'll recall for the last 15 years, you and I, have been looking at alternative energy. And one of the things that I had and have the whole development of is the BATMAN, so the battery management system, which you plug into your standard household infrastructure. So you can plug it in to your you get a standard electrician, put it in next to your boiler, it will flick. You can have a variety of batteries associated with it, and you can have a pack which can, as a bare minimum, right, it'll get your boiler working, right? Because that's just a standard 5-volt battery would charge and make that happen. It's just that it's connected to our existing electricity infrastructure. So it doesn't use a lot of power. It just needs an ignition and a light to ignite the gas and power the pumps. So a BATMAN would do that. The second thing is you could have a scalable option whereby you could have your fridge and freezer as a backup. You could have then a light as a further backup. You could have your Wi-Fi, because that's the most important thing now in everybody's world and life, right? You could have a scalable option. And when we costed this, right, it was at the time, this was a few years back, but you could have a solution for less than £1,000. Now, all it takes is one of these storms to pay that money back tenfold, doesn't it? Because if you imagine how many people have lost all their food in the fridge and the freezer, how many people have been out to move out, how many people have had to pay, and all of the pain and suffering and all of that. So that was one of the solutions. The second one, which we've been exploring with Tesla, was these huge power banks. So it's almost like a container that when there's a new build, right, a container of batteries is fitted in, and it's just trickle sort of charged over a period of time. But in the event of a catastrophic failure, it flips and it will maintain electricity supply for periods of time. The other thing that it allows you to do is to share the load during peak hours. So at this moment in time, everybody at this time of year, the peak hours sort of 5, 6, 7 p.m. because everybody comes in from work, obviously if they've been to work, and they put the tellies on, they put the kettles on, they're cooking, all of the lights are on and everything. So there's a 3-4 hour window of peak power where supply is at its highest demand. If you use the batteries that were trickle charging during out of peak hours, the cost of electricity would reduce as well. So there's a significant benefit in this solution, Jalf, and it's the future.
I mean, it's something that maybe we need to look into a little bit more seriously, because I remember making those trips to Ireland and many other places and having all those meetings in all those posh hotels all those years ago.
But anyway, yeah, so they were interesting hotels. Anyway, there's the world's moved on. British Volt is building all of these batteries for cars. Well, what about houses? As in, you could, if you're building a house, you could put literally, under the floorboards in a sealed box. In a sealed box, you could have a bank of batteries, and it's connected to your chargers. It trickle feeds. It keeps an eye on it, and whenever you need it, it's there. It would also significantly reduce household bills, Jalf.
Well, I think surely, Ammar, that must be the way. There must be some.
Well, we've done all of the design. We've done everything that's needed. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, Ammar. I've just got a call coming in. It'll go off in a second.
Okay. You just
Anyway,
it's all top secret, so don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. I'm pretty sure some house builders would be thinking on the lines of.
Well, the problem is, no, because the problem with building houses is it's all about doing it as cheaply as you can. So spending a couple of extra £1,000 on providing resilience and adding value or benefit to the end user. But the opportunity here, Jalf, is if I'm buying a house and somebody says, would you like to pay £1,000, £2,000 extra? It's going to give you this functionality. I'd be going, of course I do. If I'm going to spend like 100, 2, 3, if I'm going to spend like £50,000 on my house and you're going to spend like $1 million on yours, obviously, I'm going to feel it a bit more than you, but you can afford it. So, and there's the retrofitting aspect as well. So you can get, we'd come up with a device which you can literally, it's like a suitcase size. You can connect it underneath your boiler, and it'll give you a socket. It'll not run for days, unless it was one particular thing. So it would run your boiler, and it's all been tested. It's all been validated, and in the circumstances, I mean, imagine how much that device would save insurance companies and things like that.
Absolutely, I'm pretty sure that's definitely a way that needs kind of national focus, and find ways of making energy more affordable. If gas and electricity is going to go up in the way that it is going up, then it's time for all those smart individuals to come up with solutions for the.
So Tesla have this. They've created the power bank, so they copied my design and went and done it. I got ripped off, but I'm not going to go against Mr. Musk. But anyway, it is what it is. As long as somebody's doing it. Challenge is it's quite prohibitive. The cost. of that solution. And the biggest issue right now, Jalf, is batteries. We don't have enough of them. There just isn't enough batteries out there to make it viable. So British Volt and places like that, I'm hoping will address some of those issues. Anyway, we've got the business topic of the week. Interestingly, you were making reference to your team and your business, Jalf, and the business topic of the week is strategy. And having a clear goal and being able to state it simply is an important aspect of leading your business. So we've talked about this previously, Jalf, but pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. That was the simple strategy that made Domino's Pizza founder Tom Monaghan a billionaire. So he had a simple strategy. I'm going to deliver pizza in 30 minutes or less, or you're going to get it for free.
Wow. I mean, that is a serious challenging strategy, though. And
but it pushes everyone. It pushes everyone, Jalf. It focuses the attention.
It's interesting that you should say that, because I had exactly the same discussion with the management team yesterday. The management's responsibility, and if it's done via strategy, is to focus the minds of the team and drive them and motivate them and push them. So that's such an important part of leadership. And if that is instilled in the business strategy, I mean, it keeps everyone on their toes, doesn't it?
And you need a one-page strategy, Jalf. You just need a one-page plan. And that's where a lot of the tools and the toolkits that we talk about, they really help inform that. So who's your customers? What's your value proposition? How do you service them? How do you make money? How do you support them? What staff are involved and what's their, people talk about responsibility, but actually it's accountability that your managers need to have. They should be able to count. They should be able to count whether they're performing and the team's performing. So are customers satisfied? Is the food going out consistently in the best quality? So anyway, coming back to this example. So Tom Monaghan, he became a billionaire, Domino's grew it, but when growth slowed down, Domino adjusted its strategy to focus more on quality and slowed the service down, and growth returned, with the stock tripling in price in just 36 months after the change. So the key point there is he had this strategy, he grew it to a point, realized it had peaked, and now needed to revise the strategy, and he done so concentrating more on quality rather than speed. So the triangle, the golden triangle of business. So any activity is time, cost, quality. Now, if you want something faster, it's going to cost more and it's going to affect quality. If you want something more quality driven, it's going to take more time and it's going to, there's those variables. For a business, innovation is constantly looking at how do you improve and how do you do things cheaper, faster, better. That's what business needs to keep doing. How do you do things cheaper, better, and faster? Because if you're able to keep ahead of that curve, so a simple thing for you and your senior management team, Jalf, would be, right, every single week, what we want to do is we want to improve the time from when someone places the order to when they're getting that food by a minute, right? To get it to its most efficient. Because by doing that, right, customers better satisfied, and that's without it affecting quality or whatever that is, right? You can, obviously, what you can't do is reduce the cooking time, but what you can do is reduce the time from somebody taking the order to being processed and being coming back to the table. This is just an example. The other thing that you can, as a consequence of that, and it might not be, can we deliver the food faster? It's how do we improve the experience, or how do we reduce costs? So if you were to take a simple example of, we want to improve our business model 1% every single month, right? We either want to make things better, we want to do things faster, or we want it to not cost us as much. So if you think that you were servicing more through efficiency, more customers, well, naturally, you're going to be making more money, and naturally your margins are going to increase. So you're going to be able to look at that. There's a variety of things, but it's just the 1% rule. So asking someone to do 1% better month on month, the cumulative impact of that on your business is incredible. So could you change 1%, Jeff, if I asked you?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. I mean, it's a very small target. I mean, I say to my team, I want you to improve 100%, but 1%. I think 1% is definitely, it's a good target. And you're talking every day, right? Or you're talking just...
No. Like, as an overall business, Jeff, you've got your baseline, you've got your benchmark, right? You know how much it costs to deliver your service. You know, right, what your customer experience is. So all of these benchmarks, the key thing in any business is to measure it. How do you measure, even simple things, people turning up on time, how many customers does somebody serve, what level of experience does that customer have, how often do you get rave reviews? So if you looked at those baselines, right, so are you operating at 100% capacity? As your profit margins, sort of, if it's currently, if your profit margin is 1%, Jeff, because I know it's really hard for you. Profit margin is 1%.
Sometimes
that month on
sometimes
month.
It's 0%.
Well, I know sometimes you're paying the customer to come and eat their food, especially when I'm coming there. I know that's exactly what happens. But if you're, let's argue, say 10% is your profit margin, right? If you focus on that and say, we want to increase that 1%, right, every month. Well, accumulatively, right, that's not going to be 12%, because over a period of time, over the year, you're potentially looking at 50%.
No, it makes real sense. Sensible targets and cumulative ones, and then like you say, at the end of the year, you just see the fruits of that. So instead of setting big challenging targets, the sensible ones really.
On the 1%, it's like it's okay. I say to you, Jeff, can you get up a minute earlier every day? Right? You go, that's easy. After 365 days, you've got up 365 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Right? But it's actually, it works out even more than that, because a minute every day works out accumulative, the impact of that. So, it's like after, you're going to be getting up before you go into bed. Which is amazing. I'd love to get up before I went to bed. Don't know how that would happen. But anyway, do you understand the benefit and the impact of the 1% rule? Anyway, we're getting distracted from this strategy, but it's just it's something that I now encourage everyone that I work with. Look at these low-level targets that appear to not be as challenging or stretching, but over a period of time bring far more return than going, right, everybody, I want us to make 10% more profit or 5% more profit or whatever it is. It's just simple improvements. Going back to strategy, the pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less and then moving on to quality is a great example of the effectiveness of a clear strategy. For strategic success, organizations will have to understand the essence of content, the essence of context, and the essence of process. So it's context, content, and process. Organizing both strategy formulation and strategy implementation processes as a dialogue will lead to strategic success. So what do we mean by that? A good understanding of the context of the strategy definition. So without shared understanding of cause, necessity, ambition, a company trying to formulate its strategy is drifting. And without knowing where you stand, there's no way to set a course. So, having a simple strategy, Jalf, for Kai, for Dabawal, for all of those, simply that we want to offer the best experience, whatever it is. People use these terms, we want to be the best and we want to be number one. And, that doesn't mean anything to anybody. But pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, or it's free, is like, yeah, if I'm making that pizza, if I'm delivering that pizza, if I'm owning that pizza shop, if I'm like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's it. Everyone's focused. Everyone's like on point and adequate. So second part is an adequate use of content in terms of quality, completeness, and depth. A thorough analysis with appropriate models and instruments to obtain a complete understanding of the possibilities and impossibilities of the organization and of the environment in which it is active. A thorough analysis is the basis for finding the right strategic options. So once again, coming up with a strategy that says pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, or it's free, right? But you're delivering pizza an hour away, doesn't work, does it?
Well, exactly. I was just having that. Obviously, they'll have limits and they'll have some small print also.
So you need to understand the content of your strategy. So people come up with a strategy and go, right, once again, we're going to be number one, and etc. But based on what? Who's measuring who? What competitor analysis have you done? How do you, if you're ahead of the curve, right? So you're an innovator, Jalf. Your innovation is only as good as being ahead of the curve, right? So you need to constantly refresh, don't you? We will constantly ensure that our product is the quality driven, XYZ, whatever it is. If people can touch it, feel it, see it. And then the third point is an effective and inspiring process based on engagement. Who is involved at what moment in time? What are their roles? And how is participation organized? In other words, applying the correct methods of engagement. These help to increase the level of understanding, stimulate creativity, and develop ideas. So to do this, you can use a model called the strategic dialogue. It's a generic 8-step model for formulating and implementing strategy. It focuses on content and process, doing the right things and doing things right. It approach, the name strategic dialogue says it all, that is based on engagement with key stakeholders, what the organization can and will do, not formulated up there in an ivory tower, but rather in dialogue with key external partners and stakeholders. And these are explored and discussed with internal stakeholders. However, a dialogue doesn't imply a democracy. Those responsible will still have the final say and have to make the strategic choices. So it's a figure of 8, Jalf. basically this approach is, so you start here, you go, we're going to create the most innovative restaurant in the world. It's going to be best quality. It's going to cater for a particular type of palate that is interested in exploration, that's interested in innovation, that's interested in something unique, something different, something special. So that's what you came up with. You've then gone, how do I make that happen, right? You go, I'm great at the ideas, I'm great at sort of delivery, but I could really do with some influences. So you went out and secured and procured the best chef in the world, got his advice, consulted him, then worked on various iterations, and you went round and round and round. You looked at your design, you looked at the whole environment, you looked at what ingredients could you legitimately use consistently. You weren't gonna go and get a dragon's egg that doesn't exist to make some dish, even though you'd like to. But whatever that is, so it's the dialogue, it's the fact that you keep testing and trying and testing and trying and testing and trying, and it's continuous, and it's because it's a figure of 8. That's how the strategic dialogue comes. So it's context, what, where, and how are you doing it? Content. Well, the what activities are going to underpin it, and where, and how do you realize that you're going to do it? And then the process. So taking it from there to there to there. And that's what strategic dialogue is. So an example of a good, if unusual strategy is, this guy called Heather Malik, who graduated from university with a degree in banking and finance, first class honours, but struggled to find a job in the city and get through interviews. So the 24-year-old from East London created a pop-up stand outside Canary Wharf tube station and pitched himself to potential employers every day. So he just stood outside going, can I help you? Within hours, he was invited for an interview with Canary Wharf Group and was offered a job after 3 days. So it's just looking at things, doing things differently, which is wonderful, isn't it?
Absolutely. That is the kind of secret to success in many ways, just doing something differently to everybody else. But it has to be something that the market needs or desires, or you're able to kind of, you're able to inspire your audience, or they feel inspired by it, that yes, this is a bit different, and it's just kind of ticked a little box somewhere and it's pushing me a little bit, but I think this is somewhere that I want to go. So it's just being different, trying to be different.
That's just, as you say, Jalf, it's if you can understand what value you can bring, right? So it comes down to value. As far as I am concerned, relationships, business, organizations, the bottom line for me is it's all about value, right? How much do I value you, to invite you to every single function, award ceremony, pretty much every part of my journey throughout my life? How special and how important are you to me? Obviously, that's value. Where relationships and organizations fail is they fail to necessarily value the people that value them. There's that. And as a business, it's how do you create, capture, and deliver value? So you're creating value through the dishes, through the environment, through the experience, right? You're capturing it because people are paying for that experience, and you're delivering it because people are eating and enjoying that whole thing. So you're creating, capturing, and delivering value. And that is the essence of any type of organization and any type of relationship. It's just sad sometimes when it's not. When you serve someone the best dish ever in the world, you make it with all of your heart, all of the pride and joy, and then they don't pay for it. Imagine how you'd feel.
Mm. Well, of course. I mean,
because you've created this value, you've delivered the value, but you haven't captured any value because no one values you. So it's bad. Anyway, what's going on in the world, Jeff? Well,
I think we should. We've got 15 minutes. I think it is important to kind of talk about everything that is happening around us in the UK, Europe, and the rest of the world, because obviously there's an announcement that's been made, and there is is it Omicron? Omicron.
It's part of the Transformers.
Omicron. It sounds like. Do you think that?
It's Omicron is what it is. It's I don't know where they make these names from, but
was it not Macron that came up with it? Because it kind of rhymes with his kind of surname, doesn't it?
Is it not who?
Macron.
Oh, I don't know.
The French Prime Minister.
Well, it's what omnipotent means.
I think it was him.
Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it sounds a bit French, maybe. But in any way, in all seriousness, it is. So there are a number of cases that exist. And as I understand it, and from informed sources, it is transmissible, but it isn't as potent as the past or the previous ones. So viruses, by their very nature, mutate, Jeff, right? So the example of that is the flu, the flu vaccine, the flu jabs. It's very, very interesting. So evolution, at its most basic, is the result of random mutation of the chemical code sequences that are then tested by the pressures of survival. So any virus, all they want to do is survive, Jeff, right? Because it's a living organism.
Okay.
Is what it is.
But Ammar, seems to be the widespread conclusion that Omicron is not as severe as Corona, or the first version of Corona, or COVID, whatever you want to call it. So then, why is there all of this? If it's just naturally, it just mutates, right? So why is there all this drama then at this moment in time?
We don't know what we don't know, and it's not about drama, Jeff. If you look at, right, if I was a government, right, and people have questioned how I reacted or didn't react, I should have done this. Everybody's questioning everything all of the time. And when you're trying to please everybody all of the time, it's quite hard. So the basic virology, right, focusing on the respiratory kind, and by past observation, evolved to be less injurious to the host and more transmissible, which is what we're seeing here, right? So the first virus of its kind clearly kills thousands of people. People then sort of experience it, build some antibodies or get a vaccine and whatever it is. And as variants come of it, the likelihood is they are not. And that's not always the case, but it has been up until now. So we don't know what we don't know. But in essence, the observation that Omicron is more transmissible, i.e. more people will potentially get it, is a challenge. The second thing is, there still remains millions of people in the UK that haven't been vaccinated that should have. Thirdly, we are now expecting a very severe winter. As you can probably hear me, I've had a cold and a bit of a like under the weather all week because my wife and my children kindly give it to me as a early Christmas gift, and that's all that anybody does now is give each other flu and germs and things like that. But having the flu virus, having the flu jab protects people, right? It does without a doubt. And getting the flu jab doesn't give you the flu. Just like getting the COVID vaccine doesn't give you COVID. What it does is it helps create the antibodies to protect you against serious illness that may come about as a consequence. So Omicron is here. I feel far more comfortable walking around with a face mask and hand gel than I in sort of wide populated spaces and places. And it was, I felt rather uncomfortable doing it when I was going into rooms or conferences and nobody else was wearing a face mask and I'm wearing one and I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, well, and then people are looking at me and I'm looking at them. Obviously I'm smiling. They can't see that. But
I didn't get a see-through face mask, Ammar. Then at least we could see your smile and stuff. A plastic one. They are available.
Yeah, because Jeff, there's times when I don't want to smile, and I might want to be swearing under my breath or things like that, or just coming up with things that like other people I might not say publicly, and it's great because it allows me to do that. Obviously, I would never ever do that, but for me, it offers a sense of protection. And everyone should be encouraged because if, like I have introduced in my home now, everybody has to wear a face mask, everyone's got a gas mask, everyone's got these white suits, so the kids are walking around, they come in, the wife's like that, we sleep in these space suits and everything else. Well, that's the future.
I mean, it's a joke. That's what I'll say about it.
Anyway, okay. How's it? Have you had? Because there were early signs of people starting to cancel.
Yeah, of course, and that's the whole thing. I mean, the timing. I mean, of course they have been doing. I think. Look, there's a lot of stuff that can be said, but Omnicron or Domnicron and whatever crom comes up in the future, at the end of the day, we have to look at the big picture. I know there's so many people that have got other serious illnesses. It's as though that the other illnesses don't matter anymore. I don't understand that. You can't even get a doctor's appointment because they've used COVID and to say that, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do this. What about the people that are suffering from heart attacks? They've got other serious illnesses that can't be seen because all of a sudden anything that happens, COVID or Omicron, everything seems to take over all the other illnesses that other people have. And it does, if you look at the big picture, you lock down the country, you keep on doing A, B, C, and D, the damage it's doing to the wider society is huge. And if you look into that, I just think that we just have to get on with COVID is there. It's a virus. We just have to accept it like any other illness and get on with it. And if we get it, we go to the doctors and whatever we can do about it, they do about it. Because you can't just keep on meddling with all of these things. I think that, I know you make reference to, X amount of people haven't had the vaccine and this and that. But what is the way forward on that then? Is the way forward to go how Austria is going and as Germany is going? You then say to everyone, it's mandatory for you to have the vaccine, otherwise we're going to put you in a camp as they're doing in Australia. I mean, this is going back to how it was like in Hitler's era. And globally, they seem to be introducing this and it seems to be okay. I mean, it goes against the Nuremberg Code and all those other things. But why the governments, legitimate governments, are actually going and imposing things that were outlawed X amount of years ago? And how is that okay in society today? People should have, it's people's bodies, it's their choice. If some people, like you mentioned about the flu jab, I've met individuals in the 60s and 70s, and they said that, look, I've never been ill. I've never had the flu jabs ever. So maybe their immune system is okay to live without a flu jab. So why should they be forced to have a flu jab? If they've maybe ate organically and had vitamins all their lives, to make sure that the immune system is strong. So if they want to take a holistic view on their life, they should be allowed to do so. The government shouldn't be imposing all of these things, but I'm sure that's the way that it's going to go, and it's the way that it's going to go in this country also, because they're just going to follow the lead. If they're happening in Europe, that's just on our footsteps. If it was happening in China, you'd be saying, "Oh my God, look what the Chinese are doing." But because it's Germany and it's Austria and it's Australia, it's all good.
That's one view that you have.
It's the alternative view. It's not one view. It's an alternative.
Okay, I'll get that. And obviously, it is an alternative view. But however, some people's view is that everybody should do the right thing, right? And at this moment in time,
so should the government.
We're there. So everybody should do the right thing. The right thing, as we know it, based on the information that we have, that's been presented to us, is quite simply that there is a pandemic. There's something out there that's killing lots of people and has killed lots of people.
Ammar, there wasn't a pandemic in Downing Street last year when they were having Christmas parties in Downing Street, and no one else was allowed to have Christmas parties. That's all right. But that doesn't make sense to me. How come there was no pandemic in Downing Street last year when Boris was having parties with all of his mates?
We all had the vaccine.
It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. Well, what about the people that have had the vaccine? So people have had the vaccine and what?
Listen, I can't predict.
If you're vaccinated, you're not covered against Omicron, are you? They've already said
that. So what you do is the right thing, because others choose not to, or others.
Boris is our leader.
All right. Well, okay. Well, is he? He's a prime minister.
Well, he's the leader of the country, isn't he?
Okay. So I don't know what I don't know. I don't know whether he was at a party.
Well,
everyone knows what was going on.
Everyone knows he was proper party in a way.
How does everybody know?
Because obviously it's come out and Labour are onto them. I think there should be a police investigation, and those that partied illegally.
Great. And if our police have the capacity, capability to go and investigate these things, and then it is established that something wrong had happened and someone had broken the law, then something needs to be done. Until that point, it's wrong for me to comment. And in any event, I don't know why you would try and distract my point, which is people should be doing the right thing. I'm not bothered about people partying or not, or what people get up to or not. It's, as far as I'm concerned, everyone has an obligation to protect those around them. And if, as a consequence of, Jalf, no, seriously though, if people haven't had the vaccine, right, and they get it, right, and they get it and take up hospital beds, they take up all of the GP's time and effort, and then on the other hand, going back to your point around getting an appointment for heart attacks or cancer or whatever it is, and all of those people who've done the right thing, had the vaccine, and need that care that's being taken up by those people who haven't had the vaccine, so you can't get access to the care. That's not fair. How's that fair?
But Ammar, there's lots of people with the vaccines that are still getting ill as well. They're getting COVID.
Without a doubt, but not as much. Not as much as those.
There are. But look, we know from work that people have had the vaccine, they're double vaccinated, they're still getting COVID. A lot of them are still getting COVID. I know that firsthand.
Well, I know lots of people.
Yeah,
I know people.
I know
senior people. I know senior people in the NHS who actually have now got long COVID and all of these things, without a doubt. But what didn't happen to them was they didn't end up on a ventilator. They didn't end up in hospital.
Fine. Look, I know firsthand because one of my very good friends, Jay, you may have met him before. He's in London and he's on a ventilator at the moment, and it's obviously very, very serious. COVID is still very, very serious, and it's out there and it's causing some. I know that we may be a little bit more because we're used to it a little bit more. In our mind, psychologically, we may be a little bit more relaxed about it, but we shouldn't be because it's still a killer. It's still a killer illness. It's definitely there for sure. But the point is, it's there amongst all the groups. It's there within the. If you, I mean, what confuses me if you've vaccinated and you're still getting COVID, then and if you're vaccinated, you can still it's still transmissible. Then and if you're not covered against the new variants, and you're talking about the vaccine, but you're not covered against the new variant, then you technically you're not vaccinated because you're not vaccinated.
Sorry,
against the new variant, are you?
No, but when it says you're not covered, the point is, and I don't know any different because I'm not medically qualified to this extent. But the point is, you are less likely to end up seriously ill with the vaccine than you are without it.
Fine.
That's a matter of fact.
Fine, Ammar. I think from what I've heard and seen, I think I'm with you on that point for sure.
Well, we're going to run out of time, Jalf, right?
Okay.
So the key thing here is get the flu jab, get the vaccine, and get a face mask.
And the booster as well. Don't forget the booster.
Get everything. Just get on it. Like at 10 Downing Street. Have a party while you can.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That's the thing. Those are the book for parties, enjoy it. Ammar, catch up with you next week.
Children's charities say lessons must be learned to protect children from abusive parents following the